From worst to first. Hi everyone, thank you very much for watching. Today I have the absolute honor and pleasure of speaking with Mr. Tim Edwards, multi-millionaire businessman, network marketing master distributor who has over 30 years of experience in mentoring and coaching. Tim has been a seven-figure earner in multiple business ventures, including traditional brick and mortar business ventures and the network marketing profession. Tim also recruited the #1 recruiting team out of over 1 million reps in 50 countries. He started his entrepreneurial journey at about 5 years old and has had a tremendous life story since then, with many highs and lows, many lessons learned. As mentioned, he has been a mentor and coach for many years and has coached over 200 of the top income earners in the network marketing profession and a lot more. So today we are going to be having a chat about his life, his career, and a lot more. I just want to say, Tim, thank you for agreeing to do this today, by the way. I do really appreciate that. I'm very grateful.
Sure. Well, you're a great young man, and you're going places, and I love to see new rising stars, and so I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Super. Starting at the beginning, I mean, what I'm going to start with this is to actually go back to really to the beginning, because from the perspective that your entrepreneurial journey, your business journey started at a very young age. Now, I've heard some people say 10, some people, I think Austin said 5 one time, but I'm not sure exactly. But obviously you started at a very young age. Can you describe that a little bit in terms of some of what went on, some of what your early business or work ventures were, and also the reason why, which I'm very curious to know, you were getting started in the business world at such a young age?
Well, my dad had a landscape and lawn business that he started when I was very small, and I got to the age to where he had these big lawns he would mow, and what he would do, he had this riding lawnmower that he would sit me on. I was 5. He would sit me on the mower, and he would turn it on, and then he would let me go, and I would just go in circles and mow the yard, the main part of the yard, while he did the perimeter. And then when I got finished, I would yell. He would come stop it because I couldn't reach the brake because I was too short. I was too small. So I started off, making $5 a yard at 5 years old back in the 60s. And then we had a corner lot on our street. And one of my responsibilities was to do our yard. And my mom is a perfectionist, and I sort of inherited that. And so she made me do the lawn flawlessly. And since the neighbors started to hear that we had a lawn care business, and they saw me doing our yard, and it was perfect. And so they started hiring me to do their yard. So I ended up doing pretty much everybody's yard in the area in my elementary school. And it was kind of interesting because I was a little mischievous as a child. So I think school kind of bored me. And so I was always not really paying attention. And my teachers would, back then you could spank children and spank their wrist and, and things like that because it was just a different world. But they constantly told me I would never amount to anything because I was not focused. I wouldn't pay attention. I wasn't doing my schoolwork. And what was interesting is that after I got a little bit older, I looked up what the average teacher was making back in that year. And I was making more as a 10-year-old boy mowing than my teachers. And they were telling me I wouldn't be successful. So, and what's unfortunate about that is that sometimes we take on these labels and these things that people give us, not knowing what reality is and what our potential is and what's going on. So it taught me a big lesson about that, about, just doing, what you're called to do and get good at something and people will pay for it. And so, but that also showed me that, you can do anything you want, and at a high level. So don't listen to other people when they put a label on you about what your potential is.
Love it. It's such a fantastic message. I mean, so many people have the tendency to absorb those labels. I mean, it's a little off topic this, but I had a very similar educational experience myself with being told I wouldn't make it and this, that, and the other, actually. So hearing you say that is quite profound for myself, but obviously for many people listening. And as I understand it, Tim, you left school early. Am I correct in saying that?
We have kind of a running joke that I was one of those guys that was so smart they asked me to leave early. Actually, I got kicked out because I was a little bit of a problem. But I left school. I didn't finish high school, didn't go to college. My parents were a little upset about that and wanted me to go to college. But, but I wanted to be in business. I didn't like school. I didn't want more school. I wanted to go into business. And so I declined to go to college and just went into business with my dad again at 17, because by that time he had opened up a car business. So I started becoming a buyer for him. And so I've always, started with my dad and worked out on my own and progressed, in more and more businesses.
Makes sense, makes complete sense. Another aspect to that is on different Zooms and different things that when I've seen you speaking before, you've made reference, so moving forward a little bit in time now to your early business career. You've described working obscene amounts of hours a week, 90-hour work weeks, and absolutely massive, I think more than that, and all these different things. And I know some of that was in more traditional brick and mortar. I know some of it was before the network marketing, but that ambition, to work as hard to, provide for your family, to do these things, where did that come from? I can get the gist that a lot of it was instilled in your upbringing. I mean, that does come over obviously with the lawnmowers and things, but sometimes with questions like this, I don't assume that, because there might be other motivations in play. Your motivation to do well, does it come primarily from your early experiences that you've described now with the schooling, with your parents, or are there other factors involved in your level of ambition, if that makes sense?
A little bit of both. I was I'm very driven to do things well and to do things. I don't like to do things slowly. I like to do things quick and well, and I get that from my parents. So that they had a great work ethic. So a little bit of that, and also I had done the lawn business from 5, all the way up until, let's say, I was about 16. My mom wanted me to see what it was like to work for someone else. So she made me go get a job just to have that experience, right? And my first job was I delivered pizzas. And the frustrating thing about that is I had to show up at work at a certain time. Minimum wage back then was like $2.80 an hour. And you had people telling you what to do and how to do it. And you were making no money. And I was making $20 an hour mowing yards, when I was 10 years younger. So it taught me really early the value of being an entrepreneur, controlling your own destiny, not having other people tell you what you're worth and what you can make. And I also just didn't like being told what to do. I had ideas about how to help, these business owners run and they wouldn't listen, because I was a young guy and what did I know? But just people not listening to me, telling me what to do, not liking it, not having the potential to really to meet what I could make and just making little amounts of money. It just taught me that and so what was interesting is that I also played a lot of golf when I was young, and my mom would drop me off at the golf course and I would play all day and she'd pick me up on her way home. And what was interesting is during the summer, during the day, everybody you play with is someone who owns a business, because people that have jobs can't play in the middle of the day, right? On a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. So I kept playing golf with people that were entrepreneurs, and they'd ask me, well, Sonny, what do you want to do when you grow up? And so it just embedded in my mind, own a business, play golf. So when you're young like that, you don't really understand the world, but I didn't like being told what to do. I didn't like having an income that wasn't substantial, that somebody else told me what I was worth. And I knew that if I owned a business, I had the flexibility to make more and play golf. And so that was my early understanding of what an entrepreneur would be like. And that drove me to want to own a business so I could control the outcome of my income and what I did every day.
Makes sense. It's a powerful lesson, and I think it's a powerful lesson for people listening who, might still be in that position where they're in a job, they're being told what to do, they have that. I'm going to use the term helplessness in a lot of ways that comes with having a job, because you are at the beck and call of other people. So I really think that will open people's minds if it's a new concept. So moving on from that then, I mean, getting into the network marketing space itself and everything. I mean, I know you were already successful, very successful in business prior to that. I mean, you're 7-figure earner in your 20s. In fact, I'm actually going to start there. I mean, with the fact that you were a 7-figure earner in your 20s, when you began making it, when you began succeeding, in those early ventures. Obviously, I know it's not easy, but you were also having success at quite a young age. How did you feel? I mean, a lot of people talk about the practicalities of the amount of money and the this and that and the other, but I want to hone in a little bit on the feeling, because you'd put in all these years of hard work. People had told you wouldn't be anything. All these things were going on, and you'd effectively made it. And I know that wasn't the end of the story by any means. There's highs and lows since then, but at that point you'd sort of made it. So
Mhm.
when you first experienced that, what was sort of going through your mind at that time? What were you experiencing on a mental and an emotional level, if that makes sense?
It was kind of a surreal experience, because I came from a regular background where my parents worked jobs and then they went into business, and so they had their own, controlled their own day and their business, but they didn't have a ton of money. And so I'd never experienced a lot of money. And when I got in this business and started making a lot of money, it was kind of surreal that, things just sort of duplicated. So that's where I sort of initially became a real entrepreneur, is when I set out to build my own business, came up with a business plan and a systematic way to grow it. And it just was sort of exponential in how it grew. And it shocked me how big it got. And then all of a sudden this money was coming in. And I remember, because it was lean for quite a while, when you first start a business. I remember my first experience of, I went to Neiman Marcus, which is a really famous store here in the US that's kind of a high-end exclusive, department store. And I remember going in, because it had been lean for so long, and I said, I'm just going to go in, I'm going to find some things that I want, I'm just going to go check out, I'm not even going to look at the price, I just want to see what that felt like. you know and I went and bought a couple of pairs of shoes and some other stuff, and it was like $3,000. It was like, but it didn't really matter. But it was like, I just wanted to see what it was like to go get exactly what you want and not think about the price, and see what that felt like, because I'd never had that before.
Mm.
So it was really surreal to feel that.
I mean, I'll tell you something, Tim, about that really interests me. That is a powerful lesson in terms of the aspect of visualization, in terms of practical visualization, which is something I've come across successful people using. I use it sometimes myself. We'll get into visualization later on. That's definitely something. I just wanted to drop that in. That's profound. So the network marketing space itself, as I mentioned previously, obviously at some point in time, something must have inspired you to make the switch from a more traditional business model
Mhm.
that most people have heard of, obviously, to this whole concept of the compound marketing leverage. This whole concept that is obviously a lot of people have heard of, but not quite as many.
Mhm.
So in that beginning, how did you first come across it, and what sort of inspired you to take the leap into that side of things?
It was actually, by accident. I had a new brother-in-law who had just married my wife's sister. He joined the family, and I was working this business that we talked about, that where I was making, a fortune. So I was up at 3:45 in the morning, at the office at 6, worked until 8 p.m. Then I was on call all night, and I'd done that for about 4 or 5 years with no vacation. So it was wide open. And I had, my biggest client at the time was Xerox. So they called me every hour and a half all night long and woke me up to have something expedited for them. So it was really it was an all out effort to build that business. And so I was in the middle of that business, and then he marries into the family. And back in that day, I was not real fond of salespeople, because people would call me at the office all the time and act like someone else would answer the phone, and they'd act like they knew me. And I told them, nobody that calls here will know me. And so they never got to me, and it was always people just trying to get to me to sell me something that I didn't want and I didn't need. So I thought of salespeople as just hounding people to sell stuff to you that you didn't need, you didn't want, just so they can make their commission. And so now this brother-in-law comes to me, and that I don't really know, and he's trying to sell me this business, and I didn't really know what it was, but he had this video that he wanted me to watch. I said, I don't want to watch your video. He said, it's something you can do on the side. I said, well, I'm working 90 hours a week. There is no side. And he called me like every day. I said, look, if I don't have time to watch your video, if I had time to watch your video, I'd watch a movie. I don't want to watch your video. So I just had no interest, because I was doing really well and I had no time. And he was a sales guy, so I was just really closed, right? And so finally they come over one Friday night to eat dinner, him and his wife and my wife. And I've had a really hard week. It's on a Friday night, and I'm just trying to get back to, normal. And I just notice, you can tell when somebody has something on their mind. And I could say, you know, it's kind of weird. Oh, he's going to ask me about that freaking video again. So I said, oh, how long is the video? He said, it's 15 minutes. I said, okay, when we get finished, we're going to watch that. So I was just going to get rid of him, watch the video, and then get him out of my hair because I was sick of the video. So we go back to the back part of the house and we put this video in and we press play, and they started talking about leverage and building a business that you can make yourself unimportant to the creation of your income. You can do this without employees and without receivables and without an office and without a commute, you know, and then you have this recurring income when you can take vacations anytime that you want, you know. And this guy was talking about this while he was walking out through his house, and he walked out by his pool, and then he opened the gate and he was in the middle of a fairway. And as I said, I grew up on the golf course. So that thought came back to me, you know, this guy can play golf anytime that he wants. You know, and I was like, where's this business been my whole life? You know, it's like, I've never heard of a business like this where you can build up an income and have the life too, not have all the responsibility. Because the thing that I was in is that the more money you make, the more responsibility you have, the less time you have, and you go on that treadmill and you can't get off. I had lots of people, 5,000 clients, lots of overhead, you know, no vacations for 5 years. And this guy's talking about he's taking 5 vacations this year, and he's in the middle of a fairway, you know. And I'm thinking, so I go over and press stop. Of course, my brother-in-law thinks I'm going to punch him because we don't really know each other. And and I go, you know, I'm going to check this out. And if this is for real, my business is for sale tomorrow. I was the easiest recruit on the planet because being an entrepreneur, I got the concept. If it was real, I wanted that life. Whatever it took, I was willing to work to get that life. And then I could have my life and the money, right? Where I had the money, but I didn't have the life. And I also had a 4-year-old daughter at the time that was, you know, that was born the same year I started that business. And I left in the morning, it was dark, and I got home at night, it was dark, and she was always asleep. So I was starting to feel that pressure of not being a dad and not having a life, had heart palpitations in my late 20s on the business. And so I could just tell that I was on a path to where, you know, I was, you know, it was going to be a health issue. And after I looked at that video, something interesting happened because I was starting to feel the pressure with my daughter. And so I had a dream that night that she was packing and going off to college, and I didn't remember anything. I'd missed her whole life. And it really hit me like a ton of bricks, you know, that I needed to really investigate this. So I set out to meet with all the leaders in the city and talk to them about what they did, how they did it, you know, and then I flew up to the corporate office and met the owners. When I got back, my business was for sale that day.
Incredible. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a few things I'd say to that because it's profound on the one hand that he hounded you, and I'm one of those kooky people that think that things like that are meant to be, or you know, if something keeps reoccurring, and I believe that very much. But at the same time, the fact it was as easy a decision to, you know, when you watch the video, I didn't expect that. I mean, I figured it was going to be either what is this or, you know, where do I sign type of thing. And okay, it's the latter. But it's amazing. It's amazing to hear it like that. And following on from that, though, Tim, I mean, one of the things that interests me, and I think will interest people listening to this, is that obviously in the beginning with the network marketing space, it wasn't easy for you. And I think that a lot of people will sort of might assume that it was because you've been successful in business before, because you'd risen to a high level. And that in itself is very profound, by the way, with the dreams. It's extraordinary. And I've personally met so many people that are, you know, money rich and time poor, as they say. And obviously making that shift is, well, it's profound quality of life. But going back to what I was saying, in the beginning with the network marketing space itself, it wasn't easy. I mean, I know in the past you've described being, you know, quite nervous about, you know, calling people or things of that nature, and things that you personally went through. And obviously, you know, you've overcome those and you've come out the other side to be extraordinarily successful, you know, in that space. And it really fascinates me because a lot of people, you know, will still be in that situation and they don't know how to get out of it, particularly the fact that you've made reference to not being, strictly speaking, an extroverted person. You know, the fact you've been more of a quiet type of person, and you've still succeeded. So I'd like to go into that. The thing is, I don't really have one specific question about it, but oh, it's this. Just what were some of your experiences, and how did you overcome them? I guess is the broadest way I can ask that, please.
Yeah. Well, it's I was very naive about what the business really took to make it, what it was all about, and so. And this, I don't say this too often, but it's kind of funny. Because when I saw the business, I saw the ability to get people involved and have this recurring income where I didn't have to really deal with people. Because with 5,000 clients and all the stress of a business, you know, I was just like, I wanted to kind of get away from people. And so I thought by getting this business, getting a few key people who would go do the business, I wouldn't have to deal with people. And that's how little I understood about the business. And then so I sell the business, and I remember coming home that day, and I walked out of my yard because I hadn't had any time in 5 years, right? So I just sold my company, and I go out and sit in the swing and just swing for a minute. I'm thinking, this is what it's like to be free, you know? And then it just kind of a panic attack that, you know, I still got to build the business. So then I start, then I think about, you know, because I'm a very strategic, very, very, very much a planner. So I started trying to create a plan, and then it dawns on me, you know, I start talking to people, and you think, you know, hey, if you're in an anti-aging business, who doesn't want to look younger? You know, if you're in a business where who doesn't want to make more money? Who doesn't want to have 5 vacations a year? So to me, it made total sense. I thought everybody would be interested. And when I started talking to people and nobody was interested, it was like a shock. And then I'm thinking, I'm in trouble here because I don't know how to really talk to people. And this isn't going to be easy. And so it was a real wake-up call as to what I had to do to reinvent myself to be a network marketer, because I had 5,000 clients that didn't really know me because I never answered the phone. So I didn't have a big list of people. This was pre-social media and internet. So there was no internet or social media. So I don't have a bunch of people to call, and I don't know how to talk to people, and I got to build a business. That's kind of problematic. So having to learn to talk to people and reinvent yourself and become a network marketer was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. So in my success people didn't care what I'd done before. You know, that's a different business. So what is this business? You know, what are you going to do for me? And I didn't have a clue what I was going to do for them. You know, I just thought people would jump on it, get their friends involved, and it would be easy. So I didn't really have a clue what it consisted of. So it was a real wake-up call.
Again, it's very, very profound. It's another thing I've got to sort of hone in on with that is in terms of I know there's quite a few factors that come into learning and improving as a person. There's a lot. I mean, probably more than, you know, we can talk about them all now. But in terms of some of the key things that you did, I mean, I love, you know, some of what you say about meditation, visualization, mindset, and some of that side of things is fantastic. So I'm sure that probably came into it. But, you know, and I'm actually going to tie this into giving advice for people watching or listening to this as well, because, you know, to go from worst to first, is another thing that you know, a phrase you use, I love, from worst to first. You know, it's an incredible thing. So what were some of the sort of essential, you know, like when you're cooking, like some of the essential ingredients that went into that process, becoming worst to first? What would you say were some of the absolute key factors?
Well, you know, the first thing that has to happen is that you've got to just start talking to a lot of people. You got to get into some kind of conversation to see who might be open to what you're offering, so that you can have that further conversation to see if it's a fit. And so back in that day, as I said, with no internet, with no social media, how do you get people to talk to you? How do you get people? Because you had to invite people to come to your house, and you had to do a presentation. I didn't know how to talk to them. And if they came, I didn't know how to do a presentation either. So imagine talking to people that you don't know from Adam and trying to get them to your house with very little information, and then do a presentation you don't know how to do. So it was brutal, you know? And so I got really creative as to how can I talk to more people? Because I knew in the beginning I really sucked, so that I would only get the desperate people to listen because I wasn't any good. So how many people can I talk to get a few desperate people to listen so I can get better? So I tried to get creative on how to do that. And I did some kind of crazy stuff, but it's going to be very interesting probably to the listeners. And so I would do things like I got a business card that had a little thing on it, a little prospecting script and my phone number. And if they called the message, I would do a little 1 or 2 minute pitch about freedom and leveraged income and, you know, whatever. So I was going to have to get this card in front of people. So I said, what's the quickest way to get in front of, you know, multiple people? So it's not one at a time, like you're not chasing somebody around the grocery store, right? It's kind of slow, one at a time. So I was thinking in terms of leverage, right? So I had some ideas. Like I went downtown Dallas, and I went into buildings And I would go in, and this was nerve wracking as heck, right? So, and luckily nobody has to do this today, but this will just tell you how bad I wanted it. I would go into elevators and it would be full of people going to work at 8 a.m. And as soon as the door closed, I would say, you guys probably love what you do. My name's Tim. Here's my card. If you know someone who's open, let me know. And I would get off on the second floor and go back down. You get on another elevator with 10 people. And I would do that over and over and over until they kicked me out of the building. And so I would prospect 10 people at a time every minute or two. Right? So I'd get 100, 200 people a business card before they kicked me out of the building. You know, and this was kind of interesting because when I was telling some of my Australian clients when I was coaching about a drive-through bank, they said, a drive-through bank? I thought the whole world had drive-through banks, but I guess they're not everywhere. But here you can actually drive up to a bank, you know, pre-COVID, where you can actually drive to a little machine and you see a little building there with 6 or 7 tellers that are behind the glass, and you put your deposit in the thing and it shoots it to this little room and they take it out. And so you don't have to get out of your car. So I would go to these banks where I didn't have an account, because in the US they're on every corner. There's hamburger places and banks pretty much on every corner. Right. So I'd go to banks where I didn't have an account and I'd see how many people were in that teller booth behind the glass. And if there were 6 people, I'd put 6 cards in there and I would shoot it to that person. And then I would hit the speaker button. I'd say, you guys handle a lot of money, but you probably don't get to keep much. If you're open or somebody you know that's open, there's my card. Call and listen to this message and let's chat. And I'd drive off and I'd prospect 6 or 7 people at a time. I'd go to the next corner and prospect 6 or 7 people at a time in another bank that I didn't have an account at. So I would just find ways to get in front of lots of people so that somebody would call me and say, what are you doing? And then I could do a presentation where I could get better. So it was really nerve wracking. It was kind of crazy, but I just wanted a lot of conversation so I could get better.
Incredible. It's absolutely genius. I mean, I was listening to that, and obviously I didn't want to interrupt you, so I was just letting. But
Yeah.
that is incredibly inventive. I mean, it's genius in simple terms. And wow, I really think that there is that aspect that today it's easier in a lot of ways. I mean, I thought that, you know, I mean, there's pros and cons, so it's, you know, there's definitely pros and cons to everything. But then, yeah, I mean, the fact we can send messages and you know, run larger numbers practically, you know, without moving is incredible. But hearing it like that, it's extraordinary. And yes, it does show how bad you wanted it. I mean, it shows, you know, the fire that must have been burning.
My knees were knocking. I was sweating bullets. It was really hard, but I wanted to be free, you know, and that's one of the things I tell people when they join. It's an uncomfortable business. Obviously, sending a message to somebody on social media is very easy compared to what I did. But just know that after that, there's a conversation that's going to be uncomfortable. Yeah. They're going to have questions. You're not going to have all the answers. That's going to be uncomfortable. You know, you got to get them to a webinar or into a funnel. That's, you know, that's not comfortable. So you're going to have to do things. And the key is you want to be free bad enough? Is the pain of not being free bigger than the pain of doing the action? So you can get that scale weighted on the side that you have to do the business in order, because this is, you know, not having the freedom is more painful. You're not going to build a business. You're going to avoid it because the pain is on the other side. There's too much pain in doing it, and there's not enough need to eliminate that pain.
Yeah, it's a brilliant way to look at it, and especially when you went through that weighing up process of where you would have ended up hypothetically if you hadn't have got involved in network marketing. I mean, it doesn't sound good. I mean, even with the dream, with the heart situation, you know, so it's enough to drive you in that direction. But I do think people need to find that. I mean, I call it like the fire that burns, but you know, they've got to find that motivation. It's profound. It is very profound. So, okay, let's have a little bit more fun now, because this one's, I mean, that was fun, but this one follows on from that. It's a little bit more fun than where we started. Obviously, having made it to the level, you know, that you've made it and made millions and done incredibly well, and obviously with the mentoring and coaching, which we'll also get to in a minute, I want to hone in on some of the lifestyle, you know, in some of that factor, because the other day, I saw a post on your Facebook about Monaco and about a holiday that you had there, a vacation, and it was extraordinary description. And that type of thing, and again, obviously, you've had these different incredible experiences in your life. You've been around the world. You've obviously have the passion for supercars, which I remember seeing. Things that's amazing, and all different things. So again, with that, what are some of your favorite experiences that you've had in terms of the success to sort of really highlight the other side of this now? So you've come through these hardships and obviously made it. And in your own words, Tim, I mean, but whichever ones stand out to you, some of your favorite moments of that type.
What's cool about this is that it's interesting how I'm sort of where I am, because I got in the business to be free, right? So freedom was the motivation. And then once I got in the business, I realized I'm going to have to not only learn the business, but mentor people so that they can be productive enough to create the income that I need to be free. So that's how I became a mentor, was because I had a goal to be free. So my passion to be free led me to my purpose, which is mentoring. I didn't know I was a mentor until I had gone the whole gamut and taken off for 8 or 9 years and just collected and traveled the world and built my dream house and got the dream cars and country club membership and played golf. Then it dawned on me that, what else is there, right? And I missed the interaction with leaders. And so that's why I wanted to coach, because I could be involved in helping other people reach their goals, but not be involved in the day-to-day business, because I wasn't really ready for that again at that point. But as I think back, when you have those experiences, whether it's your favorite car or your dream bucket list trip or your dream house or whatever it is, the things that really floated my boat the most was actually we'd have an event where we'd have it at the hotel. We'd fill up, my group would fill up a whole hotel in Dallas, the biggest hotel in Dallas, and we'd have the ballroom, and corporate would actually come to my events and support us instead of us going to corporate, because the team was that size. But having to park the cars at the hotel and giving people rides in the cars to give them the vision of having it, I remember that. I remember we would have me and another one of my top leaders. We had nice size houses, that could hold a lot of people, and so we'd also have a get together after each event where half of the people would take 6 or 7 buses to her house, and half of the people would take 6 or 7 buses to my house. Every hour we'd have 6 or 7 buses full of people, and they would hang out, and we'd order pizza for like 1,000 people, and she'd do the same thing at her house, and they'd spend half of the day at her house, and then we'd switch, and half the people so we'd go like that. So, but having people walk through and dream about, you can live like this. It wasn't like talk or a picture. It was you were there, and you got to hang out with us, and you got to ride in the cars, and you got to go play golf with us. And so the things that you do with people that let them see, because it's like being a fly on the wall. Once you experience it, you can't stop. When it's just a dream board, it's sometimes you can say, oh, it's kind of painful, it's kind of slow, and you're inconsistent. But if you get to live it a little bit or get a taste of it, it's really difficult once it gets in your blood to not follow through, because it drives you crazy. So having other people experience the things that I got from success was the best part, not me getting them.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, there's a few things I'd say there, Tim. First of all, it's extraordinary. I sort of expected it in a way, but it says a lot about you that the most wonderful aspect of that is not so much what you've gained yourself, even though that's amazing, but what you've given. And I really, really admire that. And I always have, since we've met. But I'm glad you gave that a mention. And obviously the other thing is, the physical experience. They do say that when you've had an idea and when your brain sort of expand into that new idea, it can't shrink back to, what you knew before. And it is a powerful thing. I've experienced that actually on a physical level as well. And even though a lot of it's been in the sports arena with being around world champions and very, very successful people, and you can't let it go. I mean, after that you can't let it go. You just think, okay, their vehicle of getting there was different than what mine will be or what someone else's will be. Great, but at the same time the principles are the same, and you just you can't. And I think that's really beneficial, because I do see a lot of people, and I just wanted to hone in on this, who don't really keep it in front of them enough. They don't really keep it. Whereas obviously, if you've had the experience, it's like I say, you can't let it go. And it's that's not really a question, but it's a powerful lesson.
Yeah, it's like if you're a fan of racing, right?
Mm,
That's one thing to watch it on TV or even go to an event. But let's say your favorite driver says, "Come on, get in the car," and then you go around the track
yeah.
with with your favorite driver. That's a whole different experience,
Mm,
and so it's just a whole different level, because really the business is about how you make people feel.
mm,
And so it's, people think it's working and selling and prospecting. It's really how you make people feel. So if you can get in touch with people and their problems and solve their problems and get them to feel that you're going to solve their problems, it's very easy to do the business that way. And same thing with, if you can get them to give them a ride or hang out at the house or go play golf with you, it's just completely different than hearing it from the podium or
mm.
having it on a dream board. So I would highly suggest to people, get out and experience things with your mentors and your leaders, because that you won't be able to get out of your bloodstream.
Mm. Absolutely. When it's a 3D experience, absolutely, I agree. So okay, so moving on from there, then I do want to get into the mentoring and the coaching. I've got a handful more things. There's not lots, but there's one or two. So one of the things with that is the mentoring, the coaching, the helping others, giving back, and that's one of the things when you got to the top, and you described that you started giving back. And in the simplest way, giving back to people, mentoring people, coaching people, helping people fulfill their potential, whatever term, different people use different terms. It obviously means a lot to you. So in your own words, what does it mean to you? I mean, from the outside looking in is one thing, but obviously you're the person doing it. So in your own words, what does that being a mentor, being a coach, having helped all these people that I mentioned earlier, coaching the top income earners and things like that, in your own words, what does it actually mean to you personally?
It's interesting because as you coach people, even people that are top in their field, top leaders, top 10 in their company, in their country, they all have insecurities. They all have things that they doubt. They all have areas of the business that they struggle with, even though, you don't see that much on the exterior, because they're supposed to lead like they're excited and competent, and just do it. It's easy, So a lot of the stuff, when you get, it's kind of like therapy. When you get them off to the side and you're mentoring them, you find out how they really feel, what they really struggle with, what they really don't see themselves as being good at. And so it's really nice to get inside their mind and help them think differently about these things that they have issues with. It's just like you talk about interviewing athletes, the best coaches, get inside the athlete's head, because they're all physically capable. At the professional level of sports, they're all fast, they're all strong, right? So you're not going to get someone who's way faster typically than anybody else, or way stronger. It's this that separates the great ones from the ones who are average, even though, because the physical abilities are about the same. So with leaders, it's the same way. If you can get them to believe in themselves, in the things that they don't think they're good at, and show them how to get better at those things where they have a different view of themselves, you can get more out of people than they can get out of themselves, or they see it's even possible. And so that's the real, and for me, getting to the top, that's great. That's winning it, like winning a championship. But when your clients do great, it's like your kids winning a championship. That feels completely different, or your grandkids. So having that feeling where you're living through other people and you're seeing them succeed, where they didn't know that they could do it, or they're at a level they didn't believe they could get to, that's what really floats my boat, is that getting other people to get to a level they don't believe they can get to.
Powerful. That's a powerful statement. I mean, it's funny actually, because one of the questions I had on here was, about your proudest moments and, the achievements that you're most proud of so far, because obviously I know there's more to come as well. But I like to ask people, and I think that answers that to a certain degree, at least.
I'll tell you what my favorite thing, and I tell this to people all the time, is that my favorite moment is not when I walk across the stage. It's when you walk across the stage and I'm the first person to hug you as you come off, when you've hit that level, right?
Beautiful, actually. That's genuinely moving, by the way. Okay, wow. So only a couple more things, because we're doing good. One thing I do want to touch on, Tim, personally, to talk about here is obviously the fact that your faith is very much a guiding light in your life. Is the phrase that comes to mind for whatever reason, and it's definitely something that's very important to you. That goes without saying, but I'm saying it anyway for people watching who might not know that. In your own words, I mean, obviously, again, this is another funny one where I don't really have one specific question about it, but can you sort of describe your experience with that? Because it really does seem that, you know, when you're in hard times, or when you know, you can pray for inspiration. Obviously, I've experienced that myself, don't get me wrong, but again, very much for people watching and listening to this, can you describe what that means to you? And I'm sorry, it's not
Yes.
one question, but it's a whole experience. So
I totally get what you're going for here, and it's really important to me and really emotional for me because I didn't have a mentor, and so I felt very stranded and very alone. And you know, when you get into a business and you don't have a real mentor to guide you, you know, and you're the quiet type, you don't really want to talk to people, you can't get on stage, you can't present, you know, you're completely opposite of what it takes to be successful at, and there's nobody to help you. It's very daunting to think about that. And so, you know, I had to rely on my faith in the man upstairs because that's all I had. And so I spent a lot of time, you know, in the Bible, and I created what I call my spiritual visualizations, because one day when I was really battling with anxiety and depression and things, because I didn't know how to change and grow the business, and I flipped to the back of my Bible, you know, and you've seen this post, but I was reading, they had little verses about depression and anxiety and things like that. And what I did is I highlighted those, you know, and I put them on a spiritual visualization, but you can see some of those here where that when I highlighted these 30 years ago, 28 years ago, the same ones are still there, and I put them on a document. And that was kind of so I would read those back to back to back, the ones that I pulled out and highlighted. And I just felt like he was speaking to me because it flows so perfectly. It's like, okay, if, you know, I've given you the ability to do whatever you want to do. If you're focused, if you believe, if you have faith, if you keep going, I'm going to put what you need to learn in front of you. I'm going to put the people that you need to meet in front of you. And if you don't stop, you will succeed. And so that's what I got from that. And so I could read those and it would calm me down a little bit, so I could get rid of the anxiety and just go prospect people, knowing that he's kind of got my back if I don't stop, you know, that. And I actually had a meeting with my pastor, and you know, because network marketing is a strange business, and there's other people in the church that had come through the church and prospected people, and they didn't stick with it. And so he didn't have a great view of the business. And so he was sitting down with me because I had a really successful business, and then I left it to do this. And he said, "Tim, what makes you think you can do this?" I said, "Well, there's only two things that can stop me. That's God and me, and we're both on my side." And he was just silent. So just having that faith that if you don't stop and you're willing to go through the people to learn the skill and find the people that because I said I know other people out there want to be free. So all I got to do is get good at talking to people until I find people that want to be free, and they're going to join me because they want out of their business or their job like I do. They want to be home with their daughter like I do. They want to play golf like I do. And so I know they're out there. I've just got to learn how to talk to them, because you can't tell me they don't exist. Because I knew at the time there were millions and millions of network marketers. I just didn't know how to attract those people. So I had to just be tenacious, rely on my faith, and know that would change if I didn't stop. And the only thing I had to rely on was my faith.
Powerful. And once again, I know I keep saying that, by the way, but everything you're saying, it is, and I knew they'd be amazing answers, but some of them have blown me away. So I'm just sort of thinking about it as I'm asking the next one. But it is, and again, for anyone watching, listening, whatever, I mean, faith, it goes such a long way. Let me put it to you this way. I mean, I know people of all different faiths, you know, and obviously I have faith myself, but talking about in my circle of, you know, Christians and Muslims and Hindus and whatever. But then I compare that to the people that, you know, don't believe in anything, and okay, there's a lot of those. I probably more so in the UK, but I'm not sure. And they have a much harder time. And it's one of those things where when people get out of their own way and they let the inspiration come in and they let it flow, you know, I always say it's like a compass, you know. I mean, it's like sort of like an internal compass where it's sort of saying, you know, this is the right direction, this is the right direction. And I don't mean a moral compass. I mean, although that's obviously part of it, but I just mean the inspiration that can come in if you let it. But then one of the things that really struck me about what you said there is you had to get some of the anxiety and get some of the, you know, those problems, some aspects of yourself out of the way first.
Yep.
the inspiration to come in. And again, I wanted to highlight that it's not a question, but it's a powerful thing, because so many people, and I've been guilty of this, many times, we do get in our own way. We don't sort of humble ourselves enough to say that, that this inspiration is going to come in from upstairs. It's going to come in from wherever. And you meet the right person at the right time. I've had experience where people ring me out of the blue with something I need, at exactly the right time. Or if I get out my own way. Whereas if I'm thinking, no, I can handle this, it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Exactly.
And obviously that will take you so far, but then there reaches a point where it's really got to be. And I think it's amazing. And that's not really a question. That's just, and it's a little bit off topic with describing my own thing, but it's powerful for people. It really, really is. So only a couple more things, Tim. I mean, one thing you made reference to earlier that fascinates me just to go back to is your sleeping pattern is very, very interesting. I mean, you're always up very early, and I've heard you say you're getting up at about 3 a.m. and you have a nap at about 9 a.m. and things like this, and things of that nature. What are some of the reasons behind that? Is that something you've always done? Is it a habit from your earlier business life? Or I mean, I was just curious, because it obviously works very well for you, but I was just curious where it comes from.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was in the car business with my dad, we had to get up super early to be out and about, because we would buy trade-ins that would come into new car dealerships, and if you're not first out, getting what came in last night, you miss it. So I did that. Then in the next business, as I said, I got up at 3:45. I had to be at the office at 6. And I was, so I've always had some reason to get up early, and that just became ingrained in me, kind of like, I tell people, it's like people that go off to the military, because what happens, it takes 18 months to change your brain physiology. If you do something for 18 months, you're a different person. It rewires you. And so that's why people who go off to the military, who maybe sleep late, who are undisciplined, who are kind of messy, they come back, they get up early, they make their bed, they shine their boots, because they've done that every day at the same time for 4 years or whatever. So what you have to do is you have to do something for at least 18 months to change the brain physiology. And I did that in my earlier businesses, so it was there, and that became me, and I just utilized that because it's it's like the old saying, the early bird gets the worm. I want to be up first. I want to do my visualizations. I want to do my Bible reading. I want to be prospecting before anybody, while everybody else is asleep. And I want to get a head start.
Absolutely, it makes sense. It makes complete sense. Again, big believer. It's absolutely okay. So it's the only other thing to really talk about here is I'm sort of going to combine two, because obviously I don't want this to be too long for people to watch and people's attention span. So the last thing I want to drop in is obviously talking about xelliss itself, and getting into that and what drew you to it, because we've sort of moved through time, and what drew you to that, and then obviously your future plans. And obviously I was going to ask those two things separately, but to be honest, I do think they go together quite nicely, so we can move from one to another. So in terms of xelliss, obviously you're currently the master distributor for North America for xelliss. So something drew you to that role, when obviously you were doing the coaching, you're doing these things. You didn't necessarily need more success, very much from the outside looking in. I say that, by the way, Tim, because you seem to have everything, and something drew you to it. So with regards to that, what was it that drew you to xelliss as a company, and the vision that they have, and what's going on at the moment? Again, in your own words, please.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a chain reaction, and a lot of things. As I mentioned, I got in the business to be free. Then I figured out I had to mentor people so they could produce enough so I could be free. Then I got free. Then I found out my purpose was mentoring, and I missed that. So that's how I got into coaching. Then as I was coaching people, because I love getting inside people's head, like I said, and helping them become more than they think they can become. So as I was doing that and working with top leaders, it was kind of strange to me, but I felt the bug to do the business again, and I didn't think I would ever have that again. I'd been out for over a decade, and I'd had lots of offers from owners and top leaders and other master distributors to join, and it never interested me in the least. But working with top leaders closely again for a period of about 24 months, it got back in my blood, and then I was a little upset because I had a really cushy life. I was coaching 2 or 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, working out, playing golf, and traveling, and so it was just, it was a dream life. And to feel like I needed to go do the business again, or felt compelled to do it, I was a little upset because I knew I had to give up my cushy life, because I know what it takes to make it, right? You've got to be focused, and it's an all-consuming thing. So I was like, felt pulled to do it. And I was actually laying on the floor in my living room and looking up and thinking, I didn't really want to do this, but I felt like I was called to do it. And I was a little upset about it. And this thought came to me. It said, it's like the Lord talking to me. It says, Tim, I gave you the ability to be a mentor and help people. How many people can you help if you coach? Oh, 1,000. Let's say 1,000. Because it's one-on-one. So, and I'm kind of old, so it's not going to be a lot of people. And he said, how many people can you help if you get involved? Tens of thousands. I said, okay, I know why I'm called to do this now. I need to go help people. And I had some clients at that time also that really needed help, that weren't in a situation they could probably pull it off themselves. And so I felt called to help people and to get back involved and really impact more lives than I could through coaching. I was wasting my God-given abilities. So that's what compelled me to get back in. But the thing is that being so knowledgeable, being a business guy first, I see the business very differently than a lot of leaders. I look at things like, price points and timing and conversion and things that are more business than network marketing. Is just get excited about a product and go talk to people. Don't worry about that stuff. So it's a lot of very surface stuff that's not very deep on a business level. And I thought of it as a business. So when you think like that, it's hard to find something that excites you because you know too much and you focus on too many things. So as I was coaching these people, I got to see inside of all the top brands. So I knew what everybody's pay plan was like. I knew what the price points were. I knew if they were a young, struggling company. I knew if they were an older company that had been around forever and they were over promoted and it was hard, and I knew about pay plans, so I knew the things that it took to be, what really would be the perfect recipe for a right now kind of a perfect storm thing. And to find all of that is really difficult. So me and a good friend of mine, which I'll mention, Ann Feinstein, she met me when I was coming out and looking to do something, and I was testing a program at the time. So we decided to work together, and so we went through 100. I Googled the top 150 companies, and we went through each company line by line, timing, products, price points, pay plan, and we were down to like 3 that weren't a great fit. That's how hard it is to find something if that's really right. Because my thing is that I have the ability to do any company to the top, but I have to be able to look at you and everybody else on the team and say, if you do your part, I can get you to 6 figures. I have to be able to say that to you and believe it and look you in the eye, or I can't do that program. I can't just recruit a bunch of people, do a business, collect checks, and tell everybody you can do it when I know they can't. Right? So things have to be right. So with that in mind, we were down to like 3 companies that weren't a great fit. And then I had a good friend of mine with Rapid Funnels who knew Austin Zuloff, and so I knew Michael and he knew Austin, and so it wasn't a real big like, let's go investigate who these people are. He said, he's a good guy. They've got a good company that they're launching from Europe. They're looking for a master distributor. And so I met with Austin, and it was like, from manna from heaven. It was exactly what I was looking for. It was, the timing was right, because what happens with new companies is no matter how well intended they are, no matter how great their products are, they all look great and sound great, but the odds are it's 1% make it 5 years. So it doesn't matter how great they look or start or what they say. That's just who's going to invest in something like would you take your nest egg, your retirement fund, and put it into an investment that had a 1% chance of making it? No. So you don't go there, no matter how good it sounds. I just know not to go there. And the older companies, they're very stable, but they've been around forever. They've launched dozens of products, dozens of countries, and you've got hundreds of thousands of competitors, and most everybody you talk to is going to heard of it. So is that doable by a new person? Not really, right? It's very late in the curve. So xelliss, being a 6-year-old European company, who was still debt free and still growing, but opening up North America and the US was a perfect timing. It was like you could have the rapid growth of a startup without the risk of a startup. So timing was there. Science was killer. I had sold a lot of high-end nutrition products. I didn't really want to sell vitamins and shakes anymore. Not that I take those every day. And if we have those later in xelliss, I'll use those. But I didn't want to lead with something that 3,000 companies offer, right? Again, because you want to have something that's interesting. So the story, the science, the strains of blue-green algae, the photobioreactors, the patented process, the science was killer, right? It was stuff that you couldn't put better stuff in your body, and it was like $39 a month, right? Where I was used to selling products that weren't that didn't do that were over $100 a month. So the science was there. It was a unique story. It outperformed other products. It wasn't what everybody else was talking about. So timing was right, science was right, price points were right. And then we got a chance to contribute a little bit on the pay plan with a very famous consultant to make the pay plan the way that it should be, where you didn't have so many legs that it was hard to duplicate. And so we moved a lot of what's called the back end money that only the top 1% get to the front, so that everybody could make money faster and get to six figures easier, which is my thing. I have to be able to look you in the eye and tell you you can do that, right? So timing, science, price point, pay plan, and then the only two things left were mentoring and system, which that's my, I suck at a lot of stuff, but that's kind of my superpower. I can mentor people like crazy, and I can develop a process and a system that's very duplicatable. That's how I became number one in recruiting. My team was out of 1 million reps in my previous company, is that the mentoring and the systematic approach helped people, empowered people to be better than they were. And so we dominated that company because of that. So I could bring those last two things to the table. So when you bring all that together, it's really hard to find one or two or three of those things in a company. To have all six, doesn't exist. And so, and I know that because I looked at all the top companies prior to this. So to me, it's like, you're not going to find anything better. So if you're at a time and place in your life where you want to be somewhere different, this is the place to be.
Absolutely fantastic description. Wonderful. Again, I'm blown away, Tim. I mean, it's amazing. It's just you have such a way with words of explaining it as well in such a simple manner, and it's powerful. Last thing then, before we wrap this up, is obviously future plans, because one of the things about it is that we spent time looking back, and we've which is wonderful. But I'm one of those people that's always looking forward and things like that. And I know you've still got some big ambitions. And it's one of those things where I do want to give that a quick mention as the last question, because I feel that a lot of people overlook that. A lot of people will sort of look at everything you've accomplished and, oh, you've done so well, which is absolutely incredibly true. But then again, I've heard you say in the past that you've still got some big ambitions for where we're going next, where things are going next. So let's just talk a little bit about those, about what's on the horizon, so to speak, from here. And then that's everything. So again, in your own words, my friend, what's on the horizon from here, please?
Yeah, well, it's and I'm going to mention another person here, Deborah Gebhardt, who's a really good friend of mine that has worked with me in my previous company back 28 years ago. And she said something that hit me, and it fit exactly the way I felt, but I hadn't thought of it yet. She said, when it comes to network marketing, this is a story. We're going to have the greatest story in network marketing history, because and she knows too that not too many companies are in a place to do what we're doing. They're either too early and struggling, too late and over promoted, and all this is coming together. And so many people are in the network marketing profession that haven't hit that good run or haven't been at that right place at that right time, and they're starving for success or a different level of success. They've had some success, but they're capable of reaching so much more if the timing were right. It's like an athlete. You can be a great athlete and be on a losing team. To get on that right team where you have that camaraderie and you make that championship run, and how tight you get with people, and how much that impacts your life and changes it. A lot of people are going to come here and plant their flag and finish their career here because they haven't been at the right place at the right time, or they've had that and it's gone by, and they want to have that again. So I think a lot of people are going to finish their career here because of where we are. And so my goal is to help build a legacy company that's bigger than the one that I was involved in. And I was involved in one of the biggest in the world. You know, they've done many, many billions of dollars. So I want to surpass that and impact 10 times as many lives as I did the first time, because I got in late. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, it was pre-internet. So I did what I did. The timing wasn't right. You know, now it's right. I know what I'm doing. And so I can impact, you know, 10 or 100 times as many people. So it's really about watching all those hundreds or thousands of people walk across the stage and change their life, be home with their kids, bring their husbands home, take those vacations that they always wanted that they never could afford. So it's about letting the world of network marketers that haven't hit that stride have that last run and that legacy. So for me, it's like I've hit some home runs in my career, but this is my last at bat, and I want it to be a grand slam. And that grand slam is dictated by how many people can we knock out of the park with, you know, and help them get to their dreams and goals.
Amazing. Well, Tim, I mean, you know, we've covered a lot. I mean, you know, when I said give us an hour, I was thinking obviously that would include, you know, the chat time and things, and I knew it would be good, but this has far exceeded any expectations I had. So, thank you very, very much for obviously taking the time to talk to me, but also, you know, being so open. And I know you are a very open person, and I know that's who you are. But when I say that, what I mean is, you know, some of the wisdom, some of the funny stories, some of what you shared today, it's been fantastic. So. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared with me, and for obviously everyone who will watch and listen to this as well. I do really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, and for whoever's watching, you know, whether you join us or not, you can do this if you get the right environment and the right situation. So you just can't stop.
You read my mind there. I was just about to say, is there anything that you wanted to say? But so super. Well, like I say, thank you very much, Tim. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.